I'm hiking my feelings, working with all the natural healing. We are the makers of vibes in our community, working to set myself free while I'm hiking my feelings. Hiking my feelings.
All right, well, welcome to Building a Volunteer Culture, Sustaining Public Lands and Nonprofits. My name is Sydney Williams, and up here with me I have Miss Autumn Subers from the Redwood Parks Conservancy. She is the Volunteer and Transportation Director, and she's an absolute legend working with multiple agencies, tribal communities, and has developed an incredible volunteer program for Redwood Parks Conservancy. We also have Thomas Breyer, Dr. Thomas Breyer, who was here yesterday sharing his research from his time in the NPS as an embedded scholar. And we're going to be utilizing some of the data points from Thomas's research to illustrate why what we do works and why it's fun and how you can replicate it. Do you want to give a little bit about you before we get started? You're good?
I'm good.
Anything for you?
I'll just make one observation because I put some flyers on your table and I never lose an opportunity to promote a book. So there's a flyer on your table for my forthcoming book based upon the embedded research I conducted on volunteerism with the National Park Service. It's due out any month now. It's in the copy editing phase right now, but you can go to the website that's listed there and check in on updates about the book, learn more about the book, and get into some of the details that are provided in the book and that you'll hear a little bit about as we go today.
And actually, I do have one thing to add. The paper on each of these tables that has the teal header is a one page that I've created for you all to take with you that will give you actionable items that you can start with on Monday. So please feel free to take those, take extras. I made plenty so you can share them with colleagues. And I think we're ready to get going here.
Nice. And to wrap up on the resources on the table, the white card with the green heading that says Reciprocity RX, you can use that to reflect as we're going through. I'll give a little bit more information about how to use it once we get done with the presentation. But in the meantime, if you'd like to take notes, feel free. Let's get started. So I'm Sydney. This is Autumn. This is Thomas. We're your panel for today. Welcome. First of all, how's everybody doing? Oh, we got a light woo, a little post-lunch tiredness.
Fist bumps.
Fist bumps.
Fist bump.
Raise your hand if you came to Mindful Mornings yesterday or today. How was it? Awesome. How are we feeling? Energized. Good. Fantastic.
Did you guys eat like heavy burrito? Is that what's going on?
Oh, man. Too funny. So we are here to talk about the current landscape first and foremost. Guys, if we're in this room, we survived 2025. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Still to this day, we are navigating burnout and staffing shortages, funding instability, political uncertainty, and volunteer dependence. So a question that we'd like to pose to you as we move forward through this presentation, as you think about how you want to take some of these items home with you into your own volunteer programs, what if volunteer programs are not just operational tools, but cultural infrastructure? That's what we're going to be thinking through today. And on here, we have some pictures from some of our events. My name is Sydney, like I mentioned. I have the honor and privilege of working with folks like the Redwood Parks Conservancy and multiple other nonprofit partners of our public lands to bring stewardship and mindfulness and self-discovery in the form of single-day, multi-day events. And they raise money for the organization, they fill volunteer hours for the park, and they help people connect deeply to place. So in these photos, you can see this is us in Redwood, and we're just walking on the Howland Hill Nature Center Trail, orienting people to the land on a 1 mile loop is how we get people started on our retreats there. In Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument, we are proud to work with the Grand Staircase Escalante partners on BLM land. They are actively working to help reduce the graffiti that is found in the slot canyons and the Dry Fork Narrows. And it's one of my favorite volunteer projects that we've had the opportunity to do. And here we have a member of the Blackfeet tribe from the Blood Reserve in Alberta, Canada. She's helping us pull down the bark off the logs that we're using to make fencing in Yellowstone National Park. So just a handful of different ways that we've been able to support our parks and help people connect deeply to place. I'm going to pass it over to Thomas to talk about the data that we've got going on. If you want to hop up front, you're free to do so. Yeah, there we go. Boom, boom.
Scooching it. Sorry, Mike.
So, how many were in the session yesterday, part one of volunteerism? Okay, so those of you who were with me, you saw the full data report. Those of you who were not, I'm happy to send you the slide deck from yesterday. If you email me at thomas.breyer@ucf.edu, I'm happy to send that your way. But a few data points that are worth bringing up for today. First, in the research, I asked two big questions. What motivates individuals to come in and volunteer in our public lands? And second, what is the impact that the volunteers have beyond the number of heads and the number of hours that they give in the parks, which are the standard metrics that we see applied in volunteer program assessment. So first, if you were with us yesterday, the one figure that I showed, which kind of stands out, is the difference between volunteers who are motivated by egoist concerns versus altruistic concerns. And the data showed that 79% of the volunteers who were part of my research were coming in with egoistic concerns rather than altruistic. And that might sound a little shocking, right? Because we like to think volunteers are coming in with some sense of altruism, that they're doing it whatever the cost to themselves, whatever the sacrifice to themselves, it's for the greater good that they are volunteering. But that's not what the data show, and that's not a bad thing. It just means that individuals are finding volunteer opportunities and seeking out volunteer opportunities where they can do good and do well for themselves at the same time, right? It's in a volunteerism kind of landscape, this is what we would call serious leisure. People who participate in engaging activities that are good for them in some way, but are also very serious and good for society as a whole. And that's what we see in the data here. These egoistic concerns and serious leisure. 49% of volunteers are motivated by this idea of wanting to develop a greater understanding of the world around them. They want to develop a greater expertise of the park where they are volunteering, the history of the park that is being told at that location, the natural environment, the ecosystems, whatever it is that's drawing them in, they want to develop more knowledge about it. And that's the dominant motivating factor that brings people in. Not only to understand more and know more, but to also have the opportunity to share that knowledge with others. So learn more and communicate out that knowledge so that others can learn more. Other motivating factors include proximity. Simply, they live near the park, and that's what's bringing them in. They want that valuable volunteer experience, that serious leisure opportunity in a place that is close to where they live. Enhancement is a concern for upskilling. They want to learn a new skill. They want to learn about how to be an interpreter or an educator. They want to, as I did as an embedded volunteer at Cumberland Gap National Historical Park, they wanted to learn how to give a guided tour in a cave and talk about white nose syndrome. It was never on a bucket list, but I would never give it up for a million years. It was a wonderful experience, right? It's an enhancement of skill set. Other volunteers come in for social concern. They want to build relationships with other volunteers. They want to build relationships with visitors, with rangers, and with the places that are within their community. It's a social concern. And on the impact side, there are 3 levels of impact that I described yesterday as a fence model of volunteer impact. Volunteers benefit themselves. That's what I call the ground level of impact. With mental health and physical health, getting a sense of purpose, having a lifelong learning opportunity for them inside the parks. At the rail and post level, that functional level, the organization is clearly benefiting. The park is benefiting. There's a cost-benefit analysis for the parks. Beneficiaries are benefiting. Visitors are having a better experience because there are more people on the ground to interact with them on an official basis, just as an example. And then a sky level of impact, which is democracy. Democratic institutions are better because visitors, through their interactions with volunteers and with rangers, have the opportunity to participate in civil discourse, civil conversation on contested issues, on divisive issues, without screaming at each other, without demonizing each other. And they can take that lesson in civility and walk out of the park and model it for others and live it out in other aspects of their life. I will say, and this is important for this session, I think, that these data are all based on the volunteers who are in the parks now, okay? What is not addressed here, and the recommendations that I made in the session yesterday are based on the volunteers who are in the parks now. They are not necessarily the volunteers who we want to have in the parks in the future. And as we think about the changing dynamics in our public lands, the staff reductions, the needs for bringing new skills and new talents and new passions to fill gaps as they emerge on a daily basis or on an annual basis, we have to start thinking about what kind of volunteers do we want to bring in, not just who do we have in place right now, who do we want to have in, and how can we use these data, or data such as these about their motivation and their impacts in order to attract new people, new volunteers, not just those who are already in place.
Yes, sir. Oh, there goes her leg. So, like Thomas was saying, I think it's important to consider that this is more than just labor. This is not just hours being filled. This is identity work for people. And I can certainly relate to that. My journey of healing in the outdoors brought me into these places. And the first point of contact I made when I had a life-changing backpacking trip on Catalina Island wasn't to my friends or family that were curious about whether or not I survived that trip. It was to the Catalina Island Conservancy. The first point of contact I made when I got back to cell service was to the Conservancy asking, how can I help? This place has changed my life not once but twice. How do I help promote this place? How do I help protect this place? And then I thought, can I replicate that model, right? Like, can I create a space where people can have a judgment-free environment like the space that I get to occupy with my husband, Barry? Can I do this with people outside and encourage them to pay attention to what they're experiencing when they're not listening to podcasts or audiobooks or numbing in different ways? And can I introduce stewardship in real time and not hope that, pray that, cross my fingers that someday, maybe, they'll come back and volunteer? What is the impact of including the stewardship in this experience in real time? And so if we think about the data that Thomas is sharing, it really does illustrate how these projects come to life and why they're important and how it's driving a new generation of volunteerism. We see volunteer vacations, awesome, love to see it. And those are deeper than just like a single volunteer day, but there's not a layer of curriculum outside of what the project is included in those programs. We see wellness programs, but they're not on the land and they're not including stewardship. To sort of create this kind of like Venn diagram situation where we have all three, we're tapping into that people want to understand themselves, and when they understand themselves in the context of the landscape, deeply powerful shifts happen. I've seen it for myself. I've seen it in the 500 plus events we've hosted doing this work. And it doesn't even have to be about proximity to the park. To Thomas's point about the volunteers we want, volunteers will travel across the country and around the world to have experiences that connect them to themselves, to each other, and to a landscape. So a couple more examples of the work that we've been fortunate enough to do. This is a meadow restoration project that we've been supporting in Sequoia National Park. It has been going on for 10 years. Jonathan Humphrey, who started this project, was leading vegetation. He was in resource management, and he was like, you know, this meadow is overrun with orchard grass. And when he started this project 10 years ago, it was 97% orchard grass. And he was like, I don't have the staff. And 10 years ago, he didn't have the staff. He didn't have the time to get the right people out there to do this invasive species removal. He didn't have the team to be able to do it. So he built a volunteer program and has managed that specific work site for 10 years. And now last year when we were doing it, our 4th year supporting the project, that meadow is down to 5% orchard grass. And that's possible because of volunteers. Another thing I want you to consider, using Jonathan as an example, Jonathan can walk around that park, or could. He was part of the NPS layoffs in February last year and was supposed to be part of this, but he was so deeply traumatized by his time in the Park Service that he didn't want to open that wound, and I can certainly understand that. But he can walk around that park and he can say, okay, all those trees that are taller than 30 feet in lodgepole, I planted those with volunteers. Every single work site. He can walk around Round Meadow, this meadow we're restoring. He's like, that was Sydney's group in 22, that was Sydney's group in 23, that's Sydney's group in 24. His experience as an employee changed by stewarding volunteers and building a volunteer program within the Park Service, and then working with organizations like ours to build a repeat customer base of people that are craving these experiences. And as we see in the meadow, when we go back to these places, we get to see, oh, well, that's where our group was in 2022. Where have I come from since 2022? Here's how the meadow's healed. How have I healed? And that's where we get that really deep connection to place when we're able to use the landscape as a tool for reflection and a co-facilitator in the work that we're doing. Another example is the trail cleanup here in Redwood National Park with our friends at the Redwood Parks Conservancy, and up top in Glacier National Park as well. So I'm gonna bring you into a simple framework for designing a volunteer culture, and we're gonna use what Autumn is doing with Redwood Parks Conservancy, California State Parks, and the National Park Service, as well as various tribal communities to kind of illustrate this framework. So I'm gonna lay out the framework for us first. We'll use Autumn's work as an example, and then we'll bring it all back around. So if you look on the cards on the table, or if you were with us for our Mindful Mornings, you're already familiar with the 4 R's: receive, reflect, return, reconnect. Now, when we go out in the field, we do this, and it's tailored to the person, it's tailored to the landscape. But this model, this framework also works for evaluating programs, for giving feedback, for performance reviews. So we're gonna use the 4 R's framework in a different way than what we did this morning. We're gonna apply it to understanding how to build a volunteer culture. So the first R is receive, and we're going to listen to the motivations and needs of our volunteers. To Thomas's point, if they're motivated by a deeper understanding, let's understand what they want. What are they looking for, and how can we build experiences and opportunities for them to get what they're looking for? Let's understand what their needs are. If we've got somebody that can't stand still and needs to be moving around, let's set them out on the trail to rove, right? Let's not put them behind a desk at NPS in a visitor center. When we're reflecting, we're making meaning visible. I talked about that meta restoration. When we think about invasive species, and I'm going to get deep on an example here to show the breadth of this work. When you think about a meadow restoration, if you've never seen the meadow before, you go out there, you're like, oh my God, this meadow is meadowing. She is so pretty. There's thousands of years of trees just towering above this place. Like, wow, this meadow is so gorgeous. And then I point out orchard grass, and you're like, oh boy, we got an issue. It is everywhere. You can't unsee it. And it was in my own experience that I realized invasive species, invasive thoughts. What are the things that are limiting me from reaching my potential? What are the things that limit this meadow from reaching its potential? When we make meaning visible, this is what I mean. When we break our arm, we get an x-ray, we see the arm is broken, our doctors know what to do because people break bones every single day. I'm not the first person to break a bone. We have a treatment plan, we go back in, we see how it's healing, we have a visual. Mental health, we don't have that. If we're talking about purpose, if we're talking about understanding, if we're talking about making meaning, connecting people to place is deeply personal. And a lot of people, hello guys, look at where we live, look what we're going through. We got some mental health issues that are unaddressed. We might not be talking about it, but they're there. So if we give ourselves an opportunity to use this meadow as a metaphor, then we're like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, now I can't unsee this orchard grass that's everywhere. So I'm gonna think about these invasive thoughts, these limiting beliefs, and as I go into the meadow the next day, I'm gonna yank them out. And then we get done and you're like, ooh, it looks like we trampled this meadow. Like there's all this vegetation that was there that was invasive, now it's gone, but there's some collateral damage, like some stuff gets pulled that should have stayed. We got a little bit of trampling going on, but ultimately at the end of the day, we have a visual for what has been healed. And healing isn't linear, and healing certainly isn't pretty. So we use the meadow as the metaphor to make that meaning visible, and it helps us reflect on the work that we're doing and the impact that we're having, both on ourselves and on the ecosystem. When we think about return, this is where we layer in stewardship as mutual care. For all the reasons that Thomas already outlined, all the data that suggests what we're motivated by and the needs that we have, We introduce stewardship into every single event that we could possibly do. And the events that we don't have stewardship for my organization when we come into a park, if stewardship isn't available, I'll make something up. We'll do a trash pickup. We'll pick up micro trash for 3 minutes. But like, it's best when we have like a nice rounded project we can support. So stewardship is mutual care. It makes me feel good to help this place. And if we are gonna tap into what the landscapes have to offer us, if anybody's braiding sweetgrass, we know. If anybody's a gardener, we know. When we interact with the world, it gives us what we need. Sweetgrass only grows where it's picked, otherwise it goes away. So how can we think about stewardship as mutual care for ourselves, not just the landscapes that we steward? Last is reconnect. We're gonna sustain relationships over time. That's what I'm talking about. Get these repeat things out, because when we give people meaning, when we help them understand why they're feeling what they're feeling in these spaces, when we give language and vocabulary and understanding that they're craving, they're gonna come back year after year after year. And I'm really excited for Autumn to tell you about some of her examples, because she's got like every possible way to illustrate this. So when we're thinking about receiving, we're gonna listen before we assign. Same thing we were saying earlier, like, why are people here? What are they hoping to get out of this? What does the land need? Because understanding is the primary motivation. 49% of volunteers are looking for that. They're looking to gain understanding. So if we start with curiosity about what our volunteers are here for, what they're motivated by, what they care about, instead of task lists, we're probably gonna have a better time. Actually, we are gonna have a better time with our volunteers. Meaning drives retention. So when we're reflecting, we're asking our volunteers directly, what did this experience mean to you? What did you learn? What are you proud of? When we give them the opportunity to reflect, and we give them tools like these cards, like sitting around a circle at a campfire at the end of the night, before we go home, before we do anything, before we're breaking bread, like when we stop and pause and assess, then we're able to integrate that meaning and make meaning of what out of the experience. To return is mutual care, not extraction. On the health side of things, if we're thinking about utilizing these experiences to help people heal physically, spiritually, emotionally, or otherwise, we have to practice reciprocity in that healing. Recreation cannot be healing based without reciprocity in tandem. Stewardship drives reciprocity with the landscape, with ourselves, and with our communities. The land receives the care, the organization receives support, the volunteer gets the growth. So this impact improves the visitor experience way better when they think and they know that we care and we're listening as volunteer managers, as agencies. Environmental protection goes up. We get more people hearing about experiences like this, having positive volunteer experiences that are not only like, I felt good, I pulled some weeds, I picked up some trash, when it goes into like, I learned about why that thing my mom said when I was young wrecked me for life, and now I don't have to deal with that anymore because I looked at it and I yanked it out of the ground in a meadow restoration. When you have that deep of a connection to place, the environmental protection goes through the roof, and youth engagement does too. Period, the end. If we could start getting, like, I work with primarily adults. Our programs serve anywhere from late teens up to 80s, sometimes in the same event. We've had multi-generational families come through our events, all shapes and sizes, all genders, all races, all identities. And when we're able to get adults connected in this way, think about what's possible if we just start youth like this from the beginning. If we're teaching social emotional skills and volunteerism at the same time and ecological knowledge, what a beautiful foundation from which to build. And then reconnect, like Thomas was saying, the volunteering improves civil conversation, volunteering for democracy, volunteering for president, right? Like, we're building that inclusion and trust, and our volunteers become advocates, become donors, they're board members, they're long-term partners. And ongoing invitations like our annual events of these things, or some of the series of volunteer events that Autumn's created for Redwood Parks Conservancy and their partners, are going to see a better return than one-offs, especially if you're trying to build a culture of volunteering. If you just need some projects done, one and done, cool. And if you could turn that into a series and add in some layer of education or some layer of wellness that can layer into that, then we're gonna see more impact on those events. So this is our big fun slide of all the great things we've gotten to do with Autumn. So stewardship isn't always sexy, right? Like I talked about in meadow restoration and mental health. Sometimes it's sanding and staining a deck, right? Like sometimes the best stewardship and the best experience that we can provide for visitors For us, it's hard to message staining and sanding. That's not as easy as like yanking plants out of the ground. But when the work is what the work needs doing in that case, because that deck was stained and sanded and everything was made like accessible, this is on one of the beaches in Redwood National Park, when we're able to keep the visitor in the experience, they're able to stay in that wonder and in that awe. When they're not worried about why they tripped over this ramp, why the bathroom was disgusting, why the trash is overflowing, when we're able to maintain these places and support these places through stewardship, then we're able to keep the visitors in the experience longer. Because what's happening right now is terrifying. Outside looking in, I'm not from the agency, I'm not from a supporting organization, I'm a person that was healed by nature that wants to support all of y'all the best I can. But outside looking in, it's kind of scary out there. There's a lot of stuff that looks like they're trying to dismantle everything we love. So we gotta show up and we gotta keep moving through and keep people in the experience, because if those visitors are upset about bathrooms and trash and busted infrastructure, they're not gonna care when they try to sell off public lands. They'll be like, yeah, let somebody else handle it. Let some big corporation in here, turn it into Disneyland. And we're not trying to have that happen. So by keeping people in the experience, we're naturally turning people into advocates, even if we don't know it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's hit it.
Yeah. All right. Oh, hi, and welcome to the last day of PLA sessions. What was that?
Nope, you're good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sydney. I'm gonna sit back down for this. I kind of had a day yesterday with sand in the foot. We don't need to talk about that, but it means it was a good day. Sydney and I actually have real history in the field together. She has demonstrated that through some of these slides. Hiking My Feelings brought 15 volunteers to a maintenance event, the one she was just talking about, where we are standing and staining an accessible ramp at Crescent Beach Day Use Area. It hadn't been sanded or painted or had any kind of love other than the we have to screw this back on or else, somebody's going to walk away with this firewood situation in over 7 years. And really what it came down to is it is a long project, so it would probably take multiple days. It's hard to do that project in the Pacific Northwest in a multiple day situation because chances are we're going to have rain. And we want to do those things in off season, which is when it rains. That way we're not interrupting and disrupting that awe moment that they're having, right? So I went to the leads of these different parts of our parks. We know we have maintenance, we know we have trail workers, we know we have visitor center leads. And I asked them, what can we do with some groups that I know are coming in? And I had to figure out what is needed. And then we went ahead and helped the park get that done through the hands of Sydney's group and a group of volunteers that I was able to make connection with and leverage in that situation. And I know it sounds kind of weird to think of it that way, but we're in a day and age where you do need to think of it like that. How can we invite groups in and leverage that? They put in 75 hours of hands-on stewardship work. And that framework she just basically walked you through, I've watched it happen in and for the Redwoods. Before I get more started, I want to also acknowledge that the Redwood National State Park's land is on the lands of the Tolowa, the Yurok, the Kuruk, and the Hoopa people. And I think that we always need to make sure that we continue to make those connections by making sure that we acknowledge where our lands that we work on and we steward are originally belonged to. So Thomas gave us the why for everybody who experienced that information that he gave us. And Sydney, she set up the how and the reason why to do this. And I'm going to show you how to bring this into your area, whether you're the partnership or you're the park that needs help. I want you guys to take some of this away with you. So firstly, I need a volunteer. See, I'm good at my job already. Check that out. Sydney, can you already got the backpack. We're awesome. Here we go.
Artists and photographers.
Artists and photographers. Wait, give me a second here. You're jumping ahead here.
Oh,
I'm
so excited.
Sydney is going to toss you something. And whatever your catch, that's the volunteer type that you're going to read out loud. So can I have a volunteer who wants to grab a free banana slug? And yes, you get to keep these and take them home with you. There they are. There they are. All right. So who do we have?
Retired people.
Retired people. Who do you have? Wait. Pause. Can you go stand and grab a handle? Mr. Retired people? Yeah, grab a handle. He's going to give it a try. Can you lift that? 1, 2, 3, lift. Did that do what we remember as kids? No? All right. I need another volunteer. We got that? What do you got?
Got teachers and educators.
Can you go grab a handle, please?
You said they get to keep the banana slugs, and I got excited because they got excited.
Yeah, and you were just like, you get a banana slug. You get a banana slug. Everybody gets a banana slug. Unfortunately, not everybody does, so don't get excited. All right. I need a third volunteer. You got, what do you got? Minority groups. Go grab yourself a handle. All right, all three of you, grab your handles. On the count of 3, we're going to give it a solid lift. Give it a try. Ready? 1, 2, on 3. 3. I mean, it was a good effort. It tried. We did a good job, right? Who else? Come on. All right, how about, you know what? My goal today was to get 16 volunteers to participate. Can we get the rest? Can we get 13 more volunteers?
I've got artists and photographers.
Grab yourself a handle, Mr. Artist Photographer. What else we got?
Disabled people.
Disabled people, come on down. What else we got? Seniors aging in place. Grab yourself a handle. Veterans, come on down. Well, one more time. Indigenous communities. What did you have? K through 12 students. How about you? Parents with kids. Families. We don't target that enough. What do you got over there? Conservationists, come on down. Outdoor recreation. Anybody else? Oh, one. We're all both excited. Come on down. Grab a handle. Well, I think, were you the last banana slug? You've got one too? We got 2 slugs out there. Come grab handles. Well, no worries. Does somebody want to? There we go.
That's the Swiss Army knife of
Would
volunteers.
somebody like to volunteer for her to grab her handle? Anyone? We got it. All right. Awesome. Oh, thank you. Come on down. Immigrants and new residents. So these are all different people in your community that maybe you haven't thought about targeting, right? Have you thought about reaching out to any of these people? Because these people are in your community and they are wanting to help and they don't know it yet. On the count of 3, I want everybody to lift this bad boy. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go! Hey, Sydney, what do we got? Congratulations, you got volunteers. And you have banana slugs. Yeah. Woo. Yes. This is the best ever. I love this. All right, calm down. We still have to get to the serious stuff
I
here,
think you're
everyone.
overworking the volunteers here.
Yeah, come on. Come on, guys. We're having too much fun, right? Like, come on. But honestly, having fun is what keeps volunteers, right? Did you guys all enjoy that? Did that make your little volunteer experience fun? Were you a little less embarrassed when you raised your hand now and had to read it out loud because you guys did it together as a community and enjoyed that moment? Right?
Yes.
So that right there, that's what we're doing. You can't lift projects on your own. Currently, in this administration, we're finding that out. But also just in general, funding gets cut every year. Not even now. This is an ebb and flow. It happens, right? So you can't lift it with 1. Sometimes you can't lift it with 2. But when you find the right people in your community, all of the banana slugs that are out there, you can give them a handle and tell them to lift together. And that's where the magic is created, all right? So there are 16 banana slug volunteer types that were out there. And every slug that just got tasked represents a real person who belongs in your parks. Thomas showed us this morning that 80% of volunteers are self-interested. That's not criticism, that's a roadmap. 49% are seeking knowledge enhancement, and people come with a motivation, usually one of those two. And our job is to know what it is and to meet them there. So here are 16 types of people who you can give them access to your parks to help you out. And each one of them, remember, has core reasons why they're coming. So disabled people, where are you at? There you are. Purpose, belonging, and to maybe even be an accessible advocate. How about college interns? Were they out there somewhere? College intern? There you are. So college interns, they're looking for learning, career exploration, and possibly academic credit. We have, this one's kind of a strange one, but there are formerly incarcerated people. You know, they did lesser crimes, but they are being asked to do volunteer work. What a great audience to bring in, especially if you only need a few extra hands and it's not like a family thing and you want to just get somebody out there pulling some, invasive species out of your area, or painting a bathroom, or fixing a floor, right? Maybe these people have maintenance experience. That's how you get them their hours, and you're wrapping in and getting something done for you. There are a lot of people out there that we don't think about that we can utilize and help them as they're helping us. And we're going to create that reciprocity. Seniors aging in place. We want to make sure, there she is, we want to make sure that we're giving people beyond the time where they feel like they're done being helpful and useful, the opportunity to continue to be helpful and useful. People with age have knowledge, and they want to share that knowledge. And they also want to share their story, right? As we age, we want to share our story. We want to know that we're helping some way. And maybe sometimes we have a regret and we didn't feel like we helped enough. So at the very end, we're going to want to volunteer and give back to the places that held us and the spaces that we grew up in and we went camping in and we remember playing in and throwing rocks in the river, right? Catching frogs. So these are all amazing people that you can think about inviting. And on your one sheets, there's some of those example on there, but I gave you an extra 2. So, 2 for the price of, 18, I don't know. There's 18 there, so enjoy that. I just want to give you a picture of what a fully engaged volunteer program looks like, because at Redwood Parks Conservancy, we lived it in 2025. I was able to recruit 946 volunteers last year who put in approximately 9,988 and a half hours. And when you add in the financial contribution at $33 an hour, which there is a website and it is on that page so that you can see what the volunteer hours is worth. I put in almost 300,000 there. And I supported 8 different departments within that park that year. We had one camp host alone who put in 1,090 hours by herself.
Oh,
Who is that?
that's me.
That's her, right?
Whoops.
That's not a volunteer. That's a partner, right? Our Titaneers, there's about 30 of them. They rove the Grove of Titans. I don't know if any of you have heard about that amazing, beautiful trail. They interact with over 300,000 people every summer. And they have contributed themselves as a small group where they're only required to put in 8 hours a month, 1,737 hours. And it's still counting. They are year-round as well. We have volunteer satisfaction surveys that we put out there. I definitely recommend you do that because when a volunteer feels like they're being listened to, they're gonna come back. And when you actually do those changes, they're gonna come back. So you wanna make sure you do that. And ours were 97% or higher consistently. That means we were supporting them as best as we could. So now that you know who your volunteers are and what they can do, how do you actually find them? You need to get out into the community. All right, you need to go to where they are. Reach out to high schools, go to honor societies, go to students who need community hours. I've gone to Cal Poly Humboldt and the College of the Redwoods, and we have gotten paid interns. That's something that the Conservancy could do for the parks, which is pay for interns to come in so that now they are learning and we are building a pathway to the parks. And I will say it has been successful. I've had a gentleman who's now working for another part of our agency, and he said he is changing his career pathway to become an inter ranger. So you are providing people a pathway to the parks too. So go to the doctors. Literally, there's more and more science out there that is proving awe, specifically awe in nature, is healing. And that's what we want to do. We want people to realize that they're out there being healed while they're healing us, right? And it's amazing to do. You want to go to social media, utilize that as much as you can. Social media is where everybody's at. Learn how to make some cute little videos. Target the audience you're looking for. And just make sure that you're getting flyers out into community bulletin boards. You're reaching out to the town councils. Sometimes they have a monthly or a weekly newsletter that they put out that goes to all of the building or the businesses in the area, and those people can print it and stick it in their places, right? So there's a network out there that also wants to support. Try to reach out to it. So now we know, how to reach to them. How do you keep them? That's the big one here, all right? Finding volunteers is the beginning, but keeping them is where the work happens. And here's what I've learned. People stay when they feel seen, valued, and connected to place and to something bigger than a task. So our retention strategy is usually built around those three principles. We want to match the work to the person. When I onboard new volunteers, I want to know why they're here. Are they here for the mission, social connection, career exploration, for their health? And that answer shapes what I assign for them to do and how I recognize them in the future. A retired teacher doesn't need the same experience as a college intern, and a veteran doesn't need the same support maybe as a family volunteer group for the first time. Finally, you really want to make sure you stay in communication. Monthly newsletters, check-in emails, maybe a text group. I respond to the Titaneers, which is my group that are out there protecting the Grove of Titans. We can talk more about that on the side if you have questions. But I send them monthly updates. I let them know that they're being seen. I let them know what their impact is. And they feel connected, and they have a sense of ownership over that part of the parks. And that is what keeps them staying over and over. You want to remove barriers as much as possible. And I know sometimes that's difficult, but if you do have a park partner to leverage, or if you, the park partner, have a great grant writer, there are ways that you can go out there and try to find money for ADA wheelchair vehicles or wheelchairs, right? If you want somebody to volunteer but they can't get out there, they're not gonna come. So one of the things I did was secure an ADA wheelchair bus that can fit on our, out on our major, dirt roads. And we offer to bring people to the site, and we give them the opportunity to volunteer and let them know that outside is for them, and they do have a place to work with us. You want to celebrate them loudly. We do volunteer appreciation events, and in 2026, we are looking at doing 2, hopefully, a north and a south. That way, everybody can make sure that they can get to their location and be celebrated. We send letters. We do certificates of appreciation. This is your 3rd season. This is your 5th season. Thank you. And they are signed by our superintendent, both the state park and the national parks. Some of our appreciation ideas for this year are field trips to other trails, so they can learn, because they're constantly getting asked while they're on their trail, what's another good one? Guest lectures. They want to learn so that they can help the people when they come on. And we want them to come not as just a volunteer, but as one of us as a team, right? Brown bag invitations, more learning. When a volunteer feels like they're part of your community, your work community space, they're not just going to feel like they're serving it. They feel like they're part of it, and they don't want to leave. And just make sure that you do recognize the impact that they actually care about. Dr. Breyer's research showed us that something very important, that volunteer motivation varies. And some people are here for the mission. Some here are for social connection. Some are for personal growth and physical health. But your recognition should match their motivation. Basically, out of all of this, what I really want you to walk out of this room with today is that volunteers are an infrastructure, not extra cost. Everyone has a handle. Find their handle and get them out there. And recognition is your retention strategy. Without that, nothing else is going to work. So you really want to build off of what that means for your area. And that's how you keep them. So when all 16 handles are held and everyone lifts together, this is what stewardship looks like. So I'm going to give it back to Sydney here.
Boom. Thank you, Autumn. So I'll stand up again. So if we take what Autumn just outlined for us and then reorient it to the 4 R's, when we're receiving, we're opening the door. So we're meeting people where they're at. We're partnering with trusted networks. Like Autumn mentioned, physician referrals. That's something that we're working on actively at Hiking My Feelings through our Reciprocity RX initiative. And then just having a presence in the community. You might have seen a couple slides back, Barry was dressed up like a banana slug at a local festival, right? Like, you can make it as whimsical and as funny as you want. It doesn't have to be super serious. Moving to reflect, because this is a circle that we move through, so we're going in this little circle here. We're making meaning visible. When we frame volunteering as purpose, all things are possible, right? Like, we attract a different kind of volunteer as well. Connecting service to wellness, we've seen great success with that. A quick example that I'd love to shout out, we had a campaign in 2021 called Take a Hike Diabetes, and we had a participant in that program hike over 1,000 miles that year. This was back in 2021, and every year since he's hiked over 1,000 miles, and he's joined our stewardship projects. So we're talking real hardcore lifestyle changes. And when we share the why behind the projects, we have a deeper connection. It's the same thing as being at work. If your employees aren't connected to the mission, they're not going to know why they're doing what they're doing, and they're not going to be connected to the work that they do every single day. But if they do know why, if they can see that direct line to the impact being made, the same is true for volunteers. Just because they're not paid doesn't mean they don't have brains, right? Like, they know what's going on. And if we build and include curriculum that matches the projects like we do at our organization, then you have that deep sense of place, and also the opportunity to use the landscape as a mode of reflection year over year over year. When we return and we steward together, some opportunities for that. We've done trail brushing, we've done beach cleanups, engaging the youth in all of this as early as we can get them started. Then hopefully I run out of people to help when they get older, because they don't need my help, because they've already got a great life and their life is centered around stewardship and reciprocity. And if we think about reconnecting, bringing that back to sustaining the relationships, like Autumn was saying, monthly volunteer newsletters, recurring events, the business partnerships, and ongoing invitations all fall under that. So you can see here how everything that Autumn described fits into this framework. And in fact, you can use this framework for your planning. What are we helping volunteers receive? These are questions we can be asking ourselves at any time before, during, and after a project. What are we helping them receive from these landscapes? What are we helping them receive as far as benefits of spending time outside? Where are we creating space to reflect? This was a big part of our walk this morning. We were walking out along the beach, and I was like, okay guys, we're gonna get a little delusional. I want you to think as big as you possibly can. Your needs are met individually for your family, so you have nothing at home to worry about. Your organization is funded, you're fully staffed, so is your agency partner. Now what do you wanna do? When you have nothing in your way, what do you want to do? If we don't create time and space to reflect on the programs and the projects that we're bringing forth, we won't have the opportunity to improve them. And yes, we do reflect in the terms of like, how did we spend this grant money? What are our impact reports saying? But for ourselves too, as individuals, like, what is our connection to this work, and how do we pass that opportunity to reflect onto our volunteers? Is our return mutual, or are we just filling volunteer hours and saying thanks and like that's enough? Like, when we really layer in and dig deep on how we can make this volunteer organization, agency, partner, volunteer down here, when we make this reciprocal and the return is above and beyond the hours that they're filling, and we give them the language to understand, and we have that relationship where we know what motivates them and what drives them, anything's possible. And how do we help people reconnect? How do we help our volunteers reconnect? How do we help our staff reconnect? I had the opportunity to work with Yellowstone Forever last year, and they were talking about the Rangers and Angry August. Have you guys heard of this? I hadn't heard of this before. Okay, so Angry August is a thing. Like, you get to that part of the season, you just want to wring somebody's neck. How do we reconnect our staff, our park partners, to the landscapes that they have dedicated their lives to protecting? It absolutely blows my mind, the spread of how much time we have in these landscapes and how many of us don't make time to connect with the places that we protect. So how can we help people reconnect? A couple opportunities. So Thomas has a book. There's a flyer on the table about that, ways that you can further engage with his research and work with him to bring this data into your volunteer programs to support what you're trying to build. Autumn has a wonderful one-sheeter and is available for any kinds of questions you might have. And for us at Hiking My Feelings, we've developed a toolkit called the Reciprocity RX Toolkit. It's free. If you were with us this morning or yesterday during our beach walk, everything that we've been doing in the mornings is already available. We focus on 6 different landscapes: water, mountains, forests, desert, dark sky, and open spaces. And each one of those landscapes has benefits for our health, mental, spiritual, physical, and otherwise. Those toolkit options for each of those landscapes also includes the data that supports that. So if you like research, if you want to drive some grant writing around these kinds of health benefits and build those kinds of programs and need the research to support it, it's all listed right there. And we also have a prompt for reflection. These are just like little tiny bites. And then if you want to dig deeper, we have the Reciprocity RX guided journals. This digs into each landscape. They're about 50 pages each, and they also come as a complete set. And this is taking our programs that we do anywhere from 1 day to 7 days and distilling it into something that somebody can take into any park, into any landscape. So if your organization, say Redwood Parks Conservancy, for example, I know at Redwood, I'm gonna find water, I'm gonna find forests, and if I'm lucky and it's not too cloudy and I'm not in the forest, I might see dark sky. We are technically able to see stars, but sometimes the climate prevents that. But we can take these opportunities and stack them, right? So if you know that you have multiple landscapes represented within the parks that you support, it's other ways to build programs to think about the opportunities and the volunteer projects that need filling. And then lastly, I'm gonna issue a challenge. I was kind of hoping we'd have like everybody on the beach somehow, like they'd be like, oh, I heard I could just show up and here's all 500 of us. I'm gonna invite you all to join the Reciprocity RX Community Challenge. And I'd love to come back to PLA next year and see what organizations really drove some volunteer hours this year. What organizations were logging the outdoor activities, just like inviting people to put some metrics on how we're inviting our communities and our visitors to connect with the landscape. You can list your volunteer projects, you can share your stories from your stuff, and we also have prizes and rewards from partners and sponsors. So you can join us at reciprocityrx.com/challenge for that. And if you have any questions, we'd love to take them. Feel free to take a photo of this slide if you're looking to get in touch with any of us for our contact information. And if you guys have questions, we'd be happy to answer. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys for spending the last, day with us. So appreciate it.